All right, so this next part is our swivel part, and this took me a few tries to really figure out how I wanted to explain it best to you guys, because this one is pretty tricky. So first we're going to be making a new part from our drawings, and then we're going to create the drawing as well. So first it asks us to make a new document and change all of our workspace units. So we're going to go ahead and I already made a new document. I named it Swivel. And we're going to go click on workspace units, make sure they're in millimeters, change them over to millimeters, degrees, and grams with a precision of 2. Okay, next from here, there are a few ways we can start this part. Right, here's kind of the information they give us. The issue is they really don't give us some information that would be really nice to have. It would be nice to know this little distance here. You have the bottom of that like kind of U shape, right? That little like height of that rectangle on the bottom, but we don't have it. It would also be nice to know the radius of this arc, but we don't have it. So we're just gonna have to make do with what we have. So for me, I wanted initially to start with this bottom ring, like the very bottom ring, and then kind of work my way up. But I'm not gonna do that because we're missing kind of some key information. So what to me it's a lot easier to make is to actually do the kind of subtractive process of starting off with a box and then just cutting away. I feel like that's going to be easier with the information that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of make this box here, right? And what we'll notice is the height from this edge to the bottom is this same height over here, right? That height's the same. And so that's going to really help me out, is knowing that that height is 100. So to make this box, the width is 125, the height is 100. So I'm going to go ahead and make that now. So I'm going to start a sketch on my front view. And I decided to just make this all symmetrical. You wouldn't have to do this. You can make a corner rectangle going here. But I decided I wanted to just have fun and make mine symmetrical. So I did a center rectangle. And my width was 125 and my height was 100. And next I am going to go back to my isometric view and extrude this. And again, this is where we're kind of running into issues, is when I go back to our instructions, I don't see how wide this is, right? We should really have a width here, or even up here a width on the top view. Now we do have a bottom view, right? So the depth, right, it's the depth, how far extruded would be, right here would be our depth, or up and down here would be our depth, and I don't have that up and down. But I do have an up and down here, and it's kind of a tricky one. Is I don't know how tall this rectangle is, but I know that the diameter of this circle is 100, which means from the top to the bottom of the circle is 100. So this was really tricky to figure out, but that means that when we extrude this, we're going to extrude it by 100. And that was probably the trickiest part of this whole thing. Now, again, I said I'm going to make mine symmetrical, so I'm going to just click on symmetric and just kind of keep that way. You don't have to do that. So now I have this outer box. Okay, and from here, I want to get the arcs, these kind of upper arcs, these rounded edges, right? And I'm just going to, have it go all the way through and cut it out later. So I don't know exactly the radius of it, but it does tell me that the hole and the arc share the same center point, which is the top center of the rectangle that we just created. So I'm going to go ahead and make that. So I will start a sketch on my side view. And there are different arcs. We have the 3-point arc, and you can do it this way. And just kind of go up here, and then I can go to coincident. I want this to be right there in the middle, and that'll make it work. A shortcut for that, actually, though, is if you want to choose it, is the center point arc. The center point arc, I could actually kind of go to the middle, kind of go up until I find that center, and then go out here, and that'll do the same thing. So either one of those two options works. I'm going to finish that sketch, go back to our isometric view, and extrude. And I already forgot my number, but one thing you can do if you forget your number is kind of rotate over to the other edge and say, I want to go up to face, and say, I want to go up to that face. And that works as well. All right. I only have one part, but sometimes when you create this, it might make 2 parts. If it does make 2 parts, just type in Boolean and click on the Boolean tool. And you can click on both parts and then hit the check mark, and that'll merge it back into one part for you. You do want it to be as one part. Okay, so if that happens, make sure you do that Boolean tool and merge it back into one part. Okay, next, I want to get rid of the center of this. Before we do that, though, I might make the hole going through the middle. That's probably a little easier. So I'm going to make this hole that's cutting through. Right, so that's a hole of diameter 40 right in that same center. So again, I'm going to make a sketch, and you could do this in either order, but I'm going to do the hole first. I'm going to make a sketch on this right side. Click N to go to my normal view. And then I want this to be right at that center. And if I can click at that rectangle, that's that same center. So that's where I want to start my hole. And it's going to have a diameter of 40. That way I don't have to add any other dimensions. It's just right at that center. Then I'm going to finish my sketch. Go back to my isometric view, Shift 7. Click Extrude, click on my hole. And now I want to remove, and I want to remove this through all. I also could have chosen up to face and clicked on the back, but I'm just going to say I want this to go all the way through. So I have it. I could even kind of go over here and make sure I have it all the way through. I do. Okay, and now I want to cut out that middle. So I'm going to start a sketch on the front, go to my normal view, and I want to cut out the middle. So I'm going to make a big rectangle. I'm going to get rid of the corner, the center. I'm going to go back to corner. And I want to start here, and I want it to go up to the top. The issue with this is OnShape is not really allowing me to click the top of this, and that's because the top isn't a line. So we have to kind of trick OnShape. It will let me pick the points, the corners, but not the line. So I'm going to trick OnShape by making a line kind of from here to here, just above it. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a construction line. Okay, and then to get it right on those edges, I can pick those corners. So I'm going to hit coincident. I'm going to pick the corners. Right, and now I can do the same thing with the other one. Pick this corner. And so now I do have a line along the top. Right, so the reason OnShape doesn't have a line up there is because if we kind of look at this, there is no line there, right? There's no surface there. There's nothing there. But we can trick OnShape by making that construction line and going coincident to those points. So now we do have a line there. And so now when I make my rectangle, I can start my rectangle down here somewhere and go up and click on that guy. All right, so now for that rectangle, if we kind of look at how much is being cut out, right? The rectangle is 25 away from the edges, right? The cutout's 25 away from the edges, and it has a height of 130. So I'm going to go to my dimensioning tool and give this a height of 130. And then I know I'm 25 away from both edges. Now, there are different ways to do that, right? Like if you hadn't thought about what I just did with the making that construction line, you could have also kind of done this the same way by just making a rectangle here and being like, shoot, I can't click on this, so I'm just going to click wherever. Don't try to click as close as you can. That's not going to be right. Just click wherever. Okay, and then I could dimension it and say, okay, same thing. This was 130 tall, and then 25 away from the edge, and then 25 away from the edge. And then here's another kind of trick is I could say I want this to be, I can't click on this line, but I can click on the point, and I want that height to be 0. If I make that height 0, now it's on that line as well. So either one of those two can work. Do the tricky line, which I did, or do that height of 0. Okay, so now I have that. I'm going to go back to my isometric view, and we want to cut this all away. Now it's going to treat this as two separate parts, one above and one below. That's okay, just click them both. I don't want to add material, I want to remove material. And same thing, I want to remove it through all. And now, kind of getting somewhere, we have the top edge, right? So we're still missing this little hole right here, and then the ring on the bottom. So we can do either one first. I'm going to do the ring on the bottom first, and it's actually a ring. The reason we know it's a ring is right here we have this 75 and that 100, right? We have the 75 and the 100. So kind of because they're not telling us anything, but they're showing that, outer 100, inner 75, that's actually just a ring right there. So I'm going to go back to OnShape, and I'm going to kind of rotate down to the bottom surface. And let's start a sketch on this bottom surface. Press N to go to my normal view. and I will make one of these guys out as 75. And then my next one out as 100. When I click 100, we'll see that that is tangent to the top and the bottom, which means our prediction before where we extruded this by 100 was correct. Okay, now I have that ring. I'm going to extrude it. I'm just going to kind of click that ring. I want to add material, and it actually is 25, right? If we go back here to our instructions, that height right there is 25. So we're going to extrude it by 25, which is the default. So we can just hit the check mark. Okay, now I want to make that center on the bottom. So I'm going to start another sketch, again on this bottom. Go normal. And I want this circle right here to be starting in the center. And if I go back, right, that would be this one, which is a diameter of 30 millimeters. So we want to type in 30. Oops. So do that. All right. So now we have our 30. We can finish that sketch, and then kind of same thing is extrude. Just kind of rotate so you can see it. And I don't want to add material. I want to remove material. And again, I'll just go through all of it. And so now we can see, yeah, that hole's there. This is looking good. I'll go back to my isometric view. And then they told us that the material here, they wanted us to change the material. And the material they gave us was actually not in the 1, 2, 3 instructions, but in one of the pictures. So in picture A, it says set material to aluminum 1060. So we will set that. So right click on this guy, assign material. And then we'll type in ALU and aluminum 1060. All right, we'll go ahead and hit display mass properties, click on our part. And again, make sure it's only one part. And we get a mass of 2309.27. So you can go ahead and even check that over here, 2309.27. Make sure you have that as well. Check answers. Congratulations, we got it right. Now, we are not finished. Okay, so in step 2 was to create the part, but step 3 was using a standard ANSI A millimeter drawing template, create a drawing with all the same dimensions and views shown as shown in the images below. Units are in millimeters. It says hint, use the center mark tool to add the center marks in holes B, C, D, and E, and F. So they kind of give us this drawing that they want us to replicate. So I'm going to go back over here, and we will go to our plus tool and create a new drawing. And they wanted us to use the OnShape ANSI A millimeters file. And then this one's a little bit different from what we've normally had. So normally, we have front, top, and right, but this one they want us to do the bottom view as well. So I'm going to put the front kind of where I see it in their drawing. And then now I'm on projected view, so I want to project up the top. And I'm going to click on the front again to project over the right. And then I'm going to click on it a third time to project out the bottom. And then finally, I'll click on it a fourth time to project out the isometric view. And it looks like it says, a little bit above the right view, so I'm going to try to put that there. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and I'm going to hit escape. It's always good practice to just highlight all of these guys and right click and do show hidden lines. And so this is normally what I would do. But in our case, we want to mimic theirs. So even though this is like standard practice, if I look at their example, they don't have any hidden lines. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm actually going to undo that because they didn't show hidden lines. Now I'm going to right click on this guy, and I'm going to do show shaded view. And they did do that. So this is what we're going to start off with. Now I'm just going to add in the dimensions that they have. So I'm going to go to dimension, and on our top view, they only put in the dimension of the 30 for that hole. But they do have the center mark. okay, and I don't have that center mark. So I need to add in the center mark, which is right here. So center mark, and I'll just click on it, and now I have the center mark. Okay, while I'm at the center mark, I may as well add it to the other two guys. All right, then I'm going to go back to dimension, and on our front view, they have a lot more. So on our front view, they have the 100, they have this 25, another 25, the 125, and the 25 for the bottom. So we'll go put those in. So I'm going to start off with the 25 width, and they did not put it up here. They kind of put it out to the side, so I'm just going to copy exactly how they did it. And then they have the other 25 here out to this side. And they had from the top, not all the way to the bottom, but just to this part right here. They have that as 130. Make sure it's not down here somewhere, that this one is getting centered. So I'm going to put that out here, that one's centered. And same thing from the outer edge to the outer edge. They have as 125. Again, I'm going to try to center this as best as I can. And then they have this bottom piece as being 25. All right, so now we have that front view finished, and I'm just going to go one view at a time. So next we have our bottom view. They just gave us the 75 and the 100. So I'm going to do the inner one as 75, and the outer one as 100. And then finally we have our right view, where they gave us the 40 diameter of the inner hole, the 100 width, and then the 100 from bottom to top. Oh, and you know what? I am so silly because when I was looking at part A, I kept looking for that 100, right? That extrusion of 100, and I couldn't find it, and I couldn't find it, and I couldn't find it. But they actually did give it to us in part B. They gave it to us right here, that depth of 100. So that would have been a lot easier to find for that initial extrusion, right? I had to go in and I was like looking at this tangent line and saying like, oh, the diameter of that is 100. But they did actually give it to us right here. So now we know that this distance from here to here is 100. And that actually also would have been the radius, so we could have made this a little bit easier on ourselves. Now this one, I don't want these lines to cross. I want to make sure these lines don't cross. So I'm going to just put this down below a little bit so that they don't cross. And then finally, from here to there is 100. And then this is pretty much finished. This is exactly how our drawing looks. Right? I don't think I was showing those last few steps, but what I was saying is make sure that when you're doing this 40, that the lines do not cross. So when I was putting in that 40, don't put it up here where those extension lines are crossing, but just kind of put it down a little bit below so that you don't have any lines crossing. And so now our documents look totally the same. If they did ask us to, and I don't think that they did, but if they did ask us to, add in these notes, we could use the text box, right? Make a note tool and write in hole is centered on arc. On face, and we want to be in all caps on these whenever we're making notes like this. So hole is centered on face. I would hit my check mark, and then I would want to go ahead and click on this guy and just extend it out. I hit escape, and then I extended that out. And then we would use this arrow tool, to click on the outer edge, and then out here to show hole is centered on face. Okay. And so that would be how we would make, these guys. And I don't think I showed that as well. So really quickly, let me undo that. So we use our text tool. We click note and be in all caps. Hole is centered on face. Hit the check mark. Go ahead and hit escape. Then click on this and drag it all the way out. And then this is our leader line tool. So I'll just click on this circle somewhere and click out there to make our leader line. And then we'll hit our check mark. So that would be how to make those note tools, right? If they had asked us to add in these notes. But I don't think they did. I think they wanted us to copy this. So we're actually finished. I'm going to come back here and delete those two because it doesn't look like we wanted that. And then now we're finished. This is the document they asked us to create. So go ahead and submit this, right? I would, for this one, I would share your file with me. Don't just get a screenshot because I need to be able to see the part and the drawing. So just go ahead and either take 2 screenshots. You can take a screenshot of this guy and of this guy with the mask properties, or you could just share the file with me, whichever one is easier for you.